Once Human is an open world survival game set in a post-apocalyptic future. Build, explore, and survive against unique enemies in a new weird/horror style environment. The game is looking to blend several genres and shake up the survival scene. Could this be the next big thing? Or
Will it suck?
Once Human is currently in beta and had to switch from an open beta to an invite only after having such success and a mass influx of players. They are currently inviting about 3,000 players every Friday. It is scheduled to be released in Q3 of 2024 and is being created by Starry Studio for PC, Android, and iOS. It is also being published by NetEase, which makes sense since they primarily work with mobile games. The game is a blend of the survival genre with the story, combat, and gearing elements from games like The Division and Remnant. So anyways, let's get this started and check out the gameplay. The base of the game is very much a survival game, where you're battling not only creatures, but your food, water, and sanity. You need to build shelter to produce food, weapons, armor, as well as protect yourself from the elements and progress in your journey. Now, while this is the base of the game, it is very much more a story-driven experience, with the survival elements taking a backseat, at least in the early game. So much so that I wasted 2 to 3 hours playing it as if it was a survival game like Conan Exiles or Rust, only to find out I needed to do the main quests in order to do anything else in the game. The main story is fairly simple, and you end up doing very similar tasks, like learning a new gameplay system such as the blueprint gacha mechanic wish machine, or even clearing out a rundown outpost and fighting a weak version of the boss, or great ones as they're called, leading ultimately to you taking on a full-powered version of the great one you previously fought, and in doing so unlocking new crafting patterns, passives, and progressing to higher difficulty areas. With the game currently only having PvE servers, you lose a lot of what makes an online survival game what it is, the PvP. Hell, you barely even see people running around since you have so many different worlds within each server. With a lack of people and PvP, there are very little threats to making and holding a base, except for the occasional random mob siege. So currently, the majority of the focus in the game is on PvE. I mean, you can flag for PvP, however, very little people do it. And you can also go into PvP zones, but those tend to be more hide versus hide or guild versus guild fights over territory for high-end materials. That being said, there still is a lot to do within the game as far as PvE goes, and I'm all for it. Aside from the main story, you have dungeons you can do, you have dailies that give you a massive boost in EXP, you can clear camps for crafting materials or blueprints. Hell, there's even world bosses that drop unique currencies and experience. You have the same thing with world events that you can do. Even building a base is somewhat worth it, since you can start an NPC raid on your base to earn in-game currency used to buy blueprints. It's overall in a pretty good place for a beta game. The environment and enemies are by far my favorite part of the game, and the sole reason I decided to try it out in the first place. I love the unique style of new weird Lovecraftian and body horror-esque enemies. It's just awesome to see, and a refreshing take on a zombie/mutant apocalyptic world. In the game, you'll see everything from your typical lumbering zombie, or deviant as they're called, to your deranged raiders and New World Order soldiers known as Rosetta. However, the most interesting are the mutants. You'll have people whose heads have been replaced by stage lights trying to freeze you in place like Medusa, or businessmen who have been merged with their briefcase and will shoot money out at you. A half bus, half human roams the world dropping off hordes of mutants. You even get to fight a take on the famous creepypasta Siren Head, or even some more mysterious creatures that I haven't encountered yet but seen far off in the distance. I absolutely love coming across new, strange, interesting mobs and places. The world itself can best be described as if the Upside Down from Stranger Things merged with the real world. This feels like this feels so much like the Upside Down.
Yes.
You often see throughout the world floating objects that shouldn't be, as if there was no gravity, or slimy black tentacles or roots plaguing areas. As you travel, you will see the effects that the Stardust had on farmlands, deserts, coasts, and even government facilities. It truly is a joy to explore the map. Throughout my first 20 or so hours of the game, I can say that the combat is fairly basic. It revolves mostly around shooting and popping healing stims. And while there are melee weapons in the game, they tend to feel very sluggish, and I don't know if that's because of the movement system or a combination of the movement and melee system, and they only really feel useful as a secondary weapon while taking out a lower level deviant or a 1v1 situation. Surprisingly, there also isn't any cover system in a game you would expect with a combat system like this, and mobs tend to be pretty bullet spongy. That being said, there are weapons and armor sets that allow you to build out your character in any way you want to play. For instance, an LMG that does burn damage, as well as a pair of gloves that increase burn durations. There does seem to be quite a bit of depth in character build, and I think that will enhance the combat in the endgame, similar to what you would have seen from games like The Division. From the trailers, there also seems to be superpowers, which could be a welcome addition to the combat as well. While enemies can be bullet sponges, they don't all stand still and fire back or hide behind some obstacle. The Rosetta soldiers, for instance, have drones that they will send out, both medical and scout, and they'll flush you out of any cover you may be standing behind, and then they'll maneuver around to get a good shot on you. You also have mobs like the stage light heads that will freeze you, or umbrella mobs that can disappear, summon mobs and rainstorms, all with what you have to deal with before you can even attack them. There's always something to be looking out for or something to be moving away from that keeps the combat engaging and fun. You also have mini bosses in dungeons or silos that have their own mechanics you have to deal with, as well as monolith bosses, or great ones, that are true bosses with mechanics and large health pools that you have to navigate with either yourself or a group. The survival mechanics of the game are pretty much the standard you'd see in any other survival game. You have your hunger bar, your thirst bar, you got the materials from rocks, trees, precious metals, animals, or bodies of water, and your base building is pretty much the standard you would see in any other survival game. What Once Human does a little differently is you also have a sanity bar. This can be affected by things in game like eating raw food, basic cooked food, swimming in contaminated water, or even being too close to great ones in the world. What this does is lower your max HP until you eat food that restores sanity or you sleep in a bed that restores sanity. The mechanic does seem, to me, a little bit tacked on at the moment. It seems much harsher for the new player experience than I think it should, and I'd like to see them maybe change it from losing sanity from eating cooked food to losing sanity from mobs that actually drain your sanity. The game's building system is pretty good, with a lot of options on how to build and how to customize your house. It also relies on the functional build system like you would see in Valheim or Conan Exiles, and a lot less of a build how you want. You can build, craft, and repair everything from weapons, armor, ammo, meds, tools, from the various workbenches you will craft and upgrade. You'll also be able to set up a garage and build vehicles for you or even for your hive. There's even automated turrets to help defend your base from any threats that may wander a little too close. Another system that you don't see all the time is a both crafting skill tree and a passive combat tree. You get to allocate points you earn from leveling and progressing in the main story to enhance your crafting abilities like upgraded building, or being able to craft better weapons and ammo, or even the ability to go from building a motorcycle to a sports car. The passive combat tree is unlocked by killing great ones and adds unique passives ranging from getting stamina back on melee kills to increasing the rate of damage of special passives like burning or shrapnel. There's also fun secondary activities that don't really have much effect on the game, but are a welcome addition. For instance, they have fishing in the game, and for me, I am a massive fan when MMOs or other multiplayer games add fishing system to their game, especially if it's an enjoyable one, and Once Human has that. There's also a fully functional piano that you can tune and play, which I haven't really found a use for yet, except it being super cool. Or when you're traveling throughout the world and you stumble across a house in the middle of nowhere. Turns out it's a wandering house and you started an event. You don't have to play prop hunt to figure out how to get out of the house and collect your reward. Stuff like that really adds another level of atmosphere to the game. Shit, this is gnarly. What the fuck? You gotta jump off. The mural on the ground floor. Crush the mural and find hidden shards. Mural's what, a painting, right?
Yeah.
Right here.
Oh.
Okay. If you know he's coming from the furniture, follow and listen. Oh, it's gonna be furniture somewhere. This is like that one prop hunt game. Yeah, it's this light switch.
What?
Yeah, no shit, it was that light switch. We gotta find one more. Right here. It's gotta be this light switch. Yep, no sure power outlet. That's crazy. Since the game is in a true beta state, and at least a year away from releasing, I would be remiss not to talk about some of the beta things you'll see while playing the game. Your game is going to crash from time to time. You might not even be able to get logged back in without restarting your computer or restarting the File Explorer process, Task Manager. You might even come across yourself T-posing ethereally, walking through the world after getting in a fight, or sliding across the ground after a great one knocks you to the ground. You're definitely going to see Chinese characters where it should be English in instructions or quests, and all of this is a minor nuisance in what the game gives you to what the bugs you'll experience are. Nothing is without the realm of being fixed within a year, including adding additional stuff to the game. I mean, I can't say it enough. The environment for me is by far the best thing in the game. I never get tired of going around finding new locations, new unique things, or even new unique monsters, getting close enough just to check out and see how weird they look. I'm a big fan of the creep, and this game does a great job at that. The amount of things to do in the game are mind-blowing. Something I didn't expect from this game at all. Something I expected to just go, grind materials, build bases, and defend against other players. That's what I thought I was walking into this game, but this game is a fully fleshed out PvE experience. Like I said, you have, at least right now, you have dungeons to do, you got a whole story you can go through, you got bosses you get to kill, world bosses, world events. I mean, I find myself having trouble logging off because there's so much to do. The gear customization is awesome. I loved the system in The Division, and it gives real big Division 2 vibes, where I get to customize and maybe make a unique playstyle how I want to do it, or find something that's just cool. Like I want more AoE build, I can find something that detonates and spreads burn, or if I want to go a single shot sniper build with full headshot damage, or an AK that if I hit a weak point, shrapnel hits other parts of the body, so I'm hitting multiple times with one bullet. I mean, the amount of stuff to look at and theorycraft about is great. The map is huge. I've barely scratched the surface of it. I think I've searched the southeast corner of it, and that's about it, but it's massive. I mean, it's one of the bigger survival game maps that I've come across. It feels real bad to talk about it, but it feels like there's no players in the world. And this isn't because nobody's playing the game. There's a lot of people playing the game. Like I said, they had to switch from an open beta to an invite only due to the sheer amount of players trying to play. But what they do is they shard every server. So not only do you have your server you're playing on, which there's multiple, but then you have world 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on within that world. Now you can transfer between worlds, but that just doesn't feel great, especially in an open world environment like this. The movement in the game is real sluggish. I've never been a fan of it. I've never been a huge Dark Souls fans or Monster Hunter fans, strictly due to that kind of same stuck in the mud movement. And this you do get a little bit about it. I would prefer it a little bit more fluid, but overall it's not the worst thing. The combat can definitely feel stale at times. I mean, for as much fun you have running around and moving, you definitely have instances where you're just standing there pumping hundreds of bullets into a bullet spongy, mini boss or something that you very rarely have to move around for. It's just a matter of time, so make sure you bring a lot of bullets. Since the game is still in development, there are some features I've seen that haven't quite been implemented yet, like PvP servers. While I'm much more of a fan of PvE, I do understand that PvP tends to be the bread and butter of online survival games, and this would be a welcome addition. There are also server seasons, each with a unique origin entity and unique features. I'm excited to see what they have in store for different seasons, and this will give us a reason to replay on server wipes. Raids have also been teased, which makes sense since they have a big focus on PvE and should give people who play in Hive something to do at endgame. Unfortunately, there's also a microtransaction shop. So far there is one in-game that only has cosmetic items and can be bought with in-game currency called Starcron. Starry Studios also mentioned that there will be no pay to win, which I hope is the case, but I'm a little skeptical since the major Blueprint system is a gacha machine using the same Starcron currency. So, will it suck? Hell no! There would have to be massive developmental shifts in the game that absolutely tank everything they've done so far. The game is in a great playable state right now that I told you before I have a tough time stopping playing the game. It is so much fun and there's so much to do. Everything they'll add can only enhance on what it is right now, and really the biggest question mark right now is the microtransaction shop, or a potential astronomical box price. The game is everything the day before promised to be, but they actually deliver. So if you're looking for a game similar to that, but it's actually fun, check it out.